Faith possesses boundless power. It can guide us through the darkest chapters of our lives, providing the strength to persevere. It's not easily defined, for it eludes the realms of sight and instruction. Instead, faith is something you can only truly feel, and when you do, it becomes the most genuine and profound of emotions. The story we share today recounts one of those remarkable moments when faith orchestrates the redemption of two individuals who have lost everything and live in a world devoid of hope. It's a narrative of loss and fresh beginnings that will undoubtedly stir your emotions and reignite your belief in many aspects of life. Ever questioned your inner thoughts? We all have, but that doesn't mean we'll stop listening. Sarah Fleming, our story's lead, had her doubts too. One ordinary morning at a supermarket, her life took a peculiar turn. But before delving into this unique story, let's provide some context and introduce you to Sarah. Understanding her background will shed light on why she embraced the enigmatic voice rather than dismissing it and resuming her life as if nothing had occurred. Sarah, hailing from a quaint West Texas town, grew up in a conventional American Christian household. She married her first and only boyfriend, Zach, at the age of 25. Despite their repeated attempts, they were unable to conceive children. Nonetheless, she felt her life was complete and content with the lifestyle she and Zach shared. From a young age, Sarah had a clear passion for animals and the natural world. When it came time to choose a college major and career path, her decision was unwavering. She aspired to become a veterinarian specializing in farm animal care. Animals of various kinds had always been a part of her life, with cows, sheep, goats, and even horses residing at her parents' ranch on the outskirts of town. Sarah cherished her time there during her formative years, and even after marrying Zach and settling just 5 kilometers away from her parents, she continued to visit and assist her family whenever needed. Life had been treating Sarah well. She ran her own veterinary practice and served farms across the state. Her husband, a head nurse at the hospital, also had a stable job. They had no complaints, no reason to, until a scorching summer afternoon altered everything. A fellow nurse conveyed the harrowing news. "Mrs. Fleming, we regret to inform you that your husband suffered a heart attack while on duty at the hospital. We worked diligently to resuscitate him, but there was nothing we could do. Zach has passed away. We're deeply sorry for your loss." In an instant, Sarah's world crumbled. She listened to the nurse's compassionate words, but couldn't muster a response. After hanging up the phone, she remained parked on the roadside for hours, tears streaming down her face. Her whole life had unraveled. Zach, her husband, her best friend, the person she had envisioned spending her entire life with, was gone. The pain of losing him was so overwhelming that it forever changed her. She abandoned her work and took refuge in her parents' home, refusing visitors, even her closest friends. Anger simmered within her, directed at fate for robbing her of her great love, but above all, at God. Sarah had always held deep gratitude towards God for his blessings and had frequently engaged in conversations with him. However, with Zach's absence, her connection with God and her faith had crumbled. Her parents found it agonizing to witness her transformation. Sarah, once a cheerful and outgoing soul who relished the company of friends and outdoor activities, had become reclusive. She spent her days cooped up, finding solace only in the presence of the farm animals. Her mother repeatedly implored, "Honey, you need to rejoin the world. You can't remain confined here indefinitely. I understand how difficult this is, but you must break free. Let us help you." Sarah's parents were doing their utmost to rescue her from the abyss of perpetual sorrow, yet they grappled with how to reach her. "You can't understand my pain. Daddy's here with you. He's not God. He didn't leave you alone like Zach did," she replied in a scathing manner and without giving cause to engage in conversations. "If you don't want to talk about it, we won't. If you also don't want to work or see your friends, don't do it either, but do something. Help us on the farm. Animals are the best therapy, and they seem to be the only ones you're treating well lately," her mother replied before slamming the door and leaving her alone again. Several months passed before Sarah found the strength to resume assisting her parents with their daily farm tasks. Returning to her veterinary practice seemed too daunting, but tending to the animals and engaging in farm maintenance provided a welcome distraction and a means of coping with her grief. Throughout this period, Sarah's connection with God remained shrouded in silence. Yet, as is often the case in life and matters of faith, the unexpected can unfold in an instant, turning what seemed impossible into reality. That's precisely what occurred to Sarah one ordinary day while she was engaged in routine grocery shopping at the supermarket. Now let's return to the story we began with, the moment when Sarah Fleming, our grieving widow, experienced what some might call a divine revelation, a moment that truly breathed new life into her. Sarah found herself in the checkout line at a supermarket, witnessing a profoundly heart-wrenching scene. A father accompanied by his two sons, the older one around 13 years old and the younger no more than 5, was struggling to pay for their groceries. The total on the grocery store's cash register displayed $94.10, a sum that might seem modest to many but proved insurmountable for this widowed father. He had already selected the bare essentials, mindful of what he believed he could afford, yet it still exceeded his means. The cashier repeatedly informed him that his credit card was not accepted and urged him to provide an alternative payment method to settle the bill. "I have no more cards, no more cash. Please remove several things from the cart until the card is accepted," the man begged her in a low voice, attempting to keep the rest of the people present from noticing his precarious financial situation. Sarah couldn't help but feel deeply sorry for them. The children seemed to be really embarrassed by the situation and looked at their father in disbelief, while he did not stop trying to pay with the card until the cashier told him to remove more items. And it was precisely while she was looking at them that she heard a sweet voice whispering in her ear that seemed to come straight from heaven. "Pay for these groceries. It doesn't matter if you don't have the money. I'll provide, trust me," the voice told her firmly. Sarah felt a gentle nudge on her back and a slight electric shock in her heart. She didn't understand what was happening, but she was sure of what she'd heard. It was not her imagination. A voice was speaking to her and asking her to help this family. "How is this possible? Am I going crazy?" she said to herself in a low voice, trying to clear her thoughts. "Help him, and I will help you. Don't hesitate," the mysterious voice said again. She could not ignore it. She felt another push inside, this time stronger. Her whole body was urging her to obey what the voice was telling her to do. Sarah heard God's command, but just as she was about to open her mouth and say something, she hesitated. She pulled back at the last moment and held her breath. What if she embarrassed this man's children even more? The last thing that man needed was for someone else to make him feel bad for not having money to feed his children. Sarah thought as she looked at the father who kept pulling food out of the cart. "Don't be afraid of what happens next. I'll be by your side." And there it was again, another whisper in her mind, loud and clear. The voice was firmer than the last few times, and this time, Sarah didn't hesitate. "I'll pay for it," Sarah exclaimed aloud as red flooded her face. She did it without thinking. It was an impulse she couldn't control. Even she was surprised to hear herself say those words out loud. The man and his children turned slowly to look at her, not believing their ears. In fact, everyone there stared at her in disbelief, not understanding what prompted her to offer help to a complete stranger. Her children's eyes had become as big as saucers, and the man looked at her dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. "Is this real? I don't know how to thank you. I'm a widowed father. My wife died only a year ago, and it's been hard," the father told her, tears in his eyes after Sarah paid his bill. "It's all right. I wanted to help. I understand your pain perfectly well. I also lost my husband recently, and I know how difficult it can be. I can't even imagine what it must be like with 2 young children in your care. You owe me nothing. I know it's what God told me to do. You needed it, and it was my duty to help you," she replied quietly, giving him a big smile in return. It was the first time Sarah had smiled since her husband's death, but she didn't even notice. "So you're an angel? God has sent you to take care of my family at this really hard time. I'll be eternally indebted to you," he answered her, gently holding her hands, still crying. "Can you tell me your name, just so I know who I should thank?" "My name is James, by the way," the man asked before Sarah left. "Of course, I'm Sarah Fleming. It's nice to meet you, and again, you owe me nothing. It's been a pleasure helping you, James. I felt I should do it, and I did. If you have anyone to thank, God is the one. It was all because of him," she said kindly before turning around to get into her car and head back to the farm. Little did Sarah know, a seemingly small act prompted by a mysterious divine voice would reshape her life. James, who had also been grieving for his wife, revealed to Sarah that he too sought solace in a grief support group. Grateful for Sarah's kindness, James relentlessly pursued her to repay the favor, though she refused any monetary compensation. Instead, he invited her to join one of his support group sessions, aiming to help her through her own grief. Against all odds, Sarah accepted. She had resolved to stop hiding after her encounter with the divine voice in the supermarket. She believed she had been chosen for a special mission. Sarah and James became close friends, with the support of the bereavement group enabling Sarah to rediscover laughter and a normal life. While she never forgot her husband, she no longer let grief paralyze her. Inspired by her journey, Sarah decided to share her experience on social media, offering hope to others facing similar challenges. Her message was clear. In her husband's loss, she lost herself and her faith, but God's intervention rekindled her spirit. She urged those who felt hopeless and faithless to remember that God never abandons them. Sarah's story is a testament to faith's power to transcend what we can see. So if you've ever heard that inner voice, remember you're not alone or imagining things. Sarah Fleming's life is proof that faith keeps us alive and thriving.